Welcome to CBTV. He knew how to make good use of his afflictions in order to experience awakening, and because of this, he suffered much less than most of us. One breath or one step taken in mindfulness can already bring us real happiness and freedom, but as soon as we stop practicing, suffering manifests. Small moments of this happiness and freedom steadily come together to create great awakening and great freedom. What more can we ask for? And yet many of us still think that as soon as we experience awakening, that's it. Well, enlightened, we think that after that we'll have no more problems. We can say goodbye to suffering forever, but that's not possible. Awakening and suffering always go together. Without the one, we can have the other. If we run away from our suffering, we will never be able to find awakening. So it's okay to suffer. We just need to learn how to handle it. Awakening can be found right in the heart of our suffering. It is thanks to transforming the heat of the fire that we can touch the coolness of nirvana. The practices in this book can help you touch peace and freedom at every step along the path. Conclusion. Time to live. The seven concentrations on emptiness, silenceless, aimlessness, impermanence, non-craving, letting go, and nirvana are very practical. As we apply them in our daily life, we experience increasing freedom of fears, anxiety, anger, and despair. This insight of interbeing and interdependence help us enjoy the present moment more fully, recognizing the vastness of our being and cherishing our own different bodies. We are able to live true to ourselves, reconcile with our loved ones, and transform our difficulties and suffering. With the insight of this concentration, our life begins to require a deeper quality. There's more joy, peace, and compassion in whatever we do. We realize that we don't have to wait to go to heaven or nirvana to be happy. We can touch heaven and nirvana right here on earth. When we touch reality deeply in the present moment, we touch on eternity. We transcend birth and death, being and non-being, coming and going. We master the art of living, and we know that we're not wasting our time. We don't just want to live, we want to live well. The immediate products of our practice of mindfulness is joy, celerity, and happiness in every moment. Suppose you are walking mindfully from the parking lot to your office. Every step is peace, every step is freedom, every step is healing. Arriving at your office is only a byproduct. By learning to walk in freedom like that, you develop the habit of traveling happily in the present moment. The freedom and happiness of the walking enters every cell of your body. If you can do this every day, then walking mindfully will become a way of life, an art of living that you can transmit to your children. Scientists tell us that to live is to learn. For millions of years, our species has been learning. We have been learning to adapt to our environment. We have been learning in order to survive. With natural selection, those who can adapt don't survive. If we want to survive in our fast-paced society that is overwhelmed by stress, anxiety, fear, and despair, we have to learn how to deal with it. And what we learn become part of our genetic and spiritual heritage that we transmit to future generations. That heritage is in ourselves and in our collective consciousness. Human beings evolved from Homo habilis to Homo erectus before we became Homo sapiens. And every new stage in our in our evolution came about as a result of learning. Some people have spoken of the new species called Homo conscious, people with the capacity of being mindful. The Buddha belonged to this species. His disciples and disciples of these disciples also belong to this species. They have learned how to do things with awareness. They walk mindfully, they eat mindfully, they work mindfully. They have learned that with mindfulness there is concentration and insight, the kind of insight that enable them to live their lives more deeply and avoid danger. And by living, they learn. If a species don't adapt, it won't survive. There are two ways to adapt to a current situation. The first is to find ways to protect yourself in situation of danger, stress and despair so that instead of being a victim of your environment, you can survive. Your daily practice is a way of protecting yourself. The way you think, the way you breathe, the way you walk are kind of protections. Thanks to the energy of mindfulness, concentration, and insight, you can survive in a stressful, toxic environment, and thanks to your understanding and compassion, You don't contribute to making it any worse. As a member of Homo conscious species, the fruit of your learning will be inscribed in every cell of your body and be transmitted to future generation. Future generation will in turn will profit from your experience, so they will not be able to survive challenging situation, but also be able to lead happy and fulfilled life. As a monk, I do not have a genetic children or grandchildren, but I do have spiritual children. I have seen that it is possible to transmit my realization and wisdom and a capacity to adapt to my students, my spiritual children and grandchildren. Just as I look like my parents, so do my students and disciples. Also, somehow look like me. That is not a genetic transmission, but spiritual transmission. Uh, there are many thousands of people in the world who walk, sit, smile, and breathe like me. This is proof of a real transmission that has been incorporated into life of my students and inscribed in every cell of their bodies. Later on, my students will in turn transmit this adaptation to their transcendence. We can all contribute to having Homo conscious, the species that embody mindfulness, compassion, and enlightenment, develop and contribute in the world for a long time. The world is in great need of enlightenment, understanding, compassion, mindfulness, and concentration. There is so much suffering caused by stress, depression, violence, discrimination, despair, and we need a spiritual practice. With a spiritual practice, we will be able to adapt and survive. By living with solidity and freedom, we can transmit mindfulness, concentration, insight, joy, and compassion to others. This is our legacy, our continuation body, and we hope future generations will inherit our life offerings. But suppose you adapt in a different way, seeing everyone around you so busy, you try to be even busier in order to keep up. Either have tactics to get to the top, so you adopt those same tactics to be number one in your work and in your social environment. You might be successful for a time, but in the end, this adaptation is self-inductive, destructive for you as an individual and for the perspective as a whole. In today's society, we're so busy, we don't even have time to take care of ourselves. We're not at ease with ourselves. We find it difficult to take care of our body, feeling any emotion. We're afraid of being overwhelmed by our suffering, and we run away from ourselves. This is one of the defining characteristics of our civilization. But if we run away from ourselves, how can we take care of our own pain? Of all our pain. If we can't take care of ourselves, how can we take care of the people we love? And how can we take care of the mother earth? Others have the capacity to nourish and heal us, but we are running away from her and even causing her harm and destruction. Technology is allowing us to become even more adept at running away from ourselves, from our family, and from nature. There needs to be a revolution, a kind of gentle revolution, a kind of awakening in each one of us. We need a rebel. We need to declare, I don't want to continue like this. This is not a life. I don't have enough time to live. I don't have enough time to love. Once we will start a revolution in our own consciousness, it will bring about radical change in our family and community. But first, we need to be determined to change um, our way of living. We need to reclaim our freedom to enjoy the wonders of life. When we're happy, we have the energy and strength. We need to have others do the same. But it stopped to breathe. We're not wasting time. Western capitalist civilization says time is money, and that we should use our time to make money. We can afford to stop and breathe and or enjoy a walk or marvel at the setting sun. We cannot afford to live time, but time is more precious than money. Time is life. Coming back to our breathing and become aware that we have a wonderful body. This is life. Do you have time to enjoy the glorious sunrise? Do you have time to enjoy the music of the falling rain, the bird singing in the tree, or the gentle sound of the rising tide? We need to wake up from a long dream. Is it possible to live differently? Can you see that you already want to live differently? Time is not money, time is life, and time is love. With collective awakening, things can change very quickly. That is why everything we do should be directed toward bringing about collective awakening. Human can be hateful, mean, violent, but we also have the ability with spiritual practice to become compassionate and protective toward not only our own perspective but other perspective too. The ability to be awakened beings who can protect our planet and preserve her beauties. Awakening is our hope, and awakening is possible. We need to shake ourselves awake so we can change our way of living, so we can have more freedom, more happiness, more vitality, more compassion, more love. We have to reorganize our lives so we have time to take care of our body, our feeling, our emotion, our loved ones, and our planet. Taking care of ourselves and others is the kind of adaptation we want to pass on to future generations. We have to remove the pressure that the society puts on us. We have to resist. Simply, our way of walking from the parking lot to our office is a way of reacting. I refuse to run. I resist. I will not lose a single moment or a single step. I reclaim my freedom, peace, and joy with every step. This is my life, and I want to live it deeply. Afterward, a bath of happiness. The five mindfulness training represent the Buddhist vision for a global spirituality and ethic. They are non-sectarian and their nature is universal. All spiritual traditions have their equivalent to these trainings, which are not commandments but practice of compassion born from mindfulness and insight. They are a way of living that embody the insight of interbeing, the insight that everything is connected to everything else, and that happiness and suffering are not an individual matter. Following the five mindfulness training is concrete way to apply the insight of contemplating emptiness, silenceness, emptiness, impermanence, non-craving, letting go, and nirvana in our daily life. They express the art of living mindfully, a way of living that can help us transform and heal ourselves, our family, our society, and the earth. They help us cultivate the best kind of adaptation that we want to pass on to future generations. The training are paths of happiness, and by simply knowing we are on the path, we can touch peace, happiness, and freedom every step along the way. The five mindfulness training, reverent for life. Aware of the suffering caused by the destruction of life, I am committed to cultivating the insight of interbeing and compassion, and learning ways to protect the lives of people and animals, plants, and minerals. I am determined not to kill, not to let others kill, and not to support any act of killing in the world, in my thinking, or in my way of life. Seeing that harmful action arise from anger, fears, greed, and intolerance, which in turns come from dualistic and discriminative thinking, I will cultivate openness, non-discrimination, and non-attachment to views in order to transform violence, fanaticism, and dogmatism in myself and in the world. Two, true happiness. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, I am committed to practicing generosity in my thinking, speaking, and acting. I am determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belong to others, and I will share my time, energy, and material resources with those who are in need. I will practice looking deeply to see that the happiness and suffering of others are not separate from my own happiness and suffering. That true happiness is not possible with the understanding and compassion, and that running after wealth, fame, power, and sensual pleasures can bring much suffering and despair. I'm aware that happiness depends on my mental attitude, not an external condition, and that I can live happily in the present moment simply by remembering that I already have more than enough condition to be happy. I am committed to practicing right livelihood so that I can have reduced the suffering of living being on Earth and reverse the process of global warming. True love. Aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I am committed to cultivate responsibility and learning ways to protect the safety and integrity of individual, couples, families, and society. Knowing that social design is not love, sexual design is not love, and that sexual activities motivated by craving always harm myself as well as others, I'm determined not to engage in sexual relation without a true love and a deep long-term commitment made known to my family and friends. I will do everything in my power to protect children from sexual abuse and to prevent couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. Seeing that bodies and mind are one, I'm committed to learning appropriate way to take care of my sexual energy and to cultivating loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness, which are the four basic elements of true love for my greater happiness and the greater happiness of others. Practicing true love, we know that we will continue beautifully into the future. Loving speech and deep listening. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others, I am committed to cultivating loving speech and compassionate listening in order to relieve suffering and to promote reconciliation and peace in myself and among other people, ethnic and religious group and nation. Knowing that words can create happiness and suffering, I am committed to speaking truthfully, using words that inspire confidence, joy, and hope. When anger is manifesting in me, I am determined not to speak. I will practice mindful breathing and walking in order to recognize and to look deeply into my anger. And know that the root of anger can be found in my wrong perception and lack of understanding of the suffering in myself and in other person. I will speak and listen in a way that can help me and the other person to transform suffering and see the way out of difficult situation. I'm determined not to spread news that I do not know to be certain, and not to utter words that can cause division or discord. I will practice right diligence to nourish my capacity for understanding, love, joy, and inclusiveness, and gradually transform anger, violence, and fear that lie deep in my consciousness. Nourishment and healing. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I am committed to cultivating good health, both physical and mental, for myself and family and my society by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. I will practice looking deeply into how I consume the four kinds of nutrients, namely edible foods, scents, impressions, volition, and consciousness. I'm determined not to gamble or to use alcohol, drugs, or any other products that contain toxin such as certain website, electronic games, TV program, TV magazine, books, and conversation. I will practice coming back to my present moment to be in touch with the refreshing, healing, and nourishing elements in me and around me. Not letting regret and sorrow drag me back into the past, nor letting anxiety, fears, and craving pull me out of the present moment. I'm determined not to try to cover up loneliness, anxiety, and other suffering by losing myself in consumption. I will contemplate interbeing and consume in a way that preserves peace, joy, and well being in my body and consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of my family, my society, and the earth.